Welcome to your clinical practicum. I am absolutely thrilled to be your supervisor. But hey, before you walk through those doors and sit down with your very first family, we need to go through this explainer together to really orient your mindset. This isn't just some boring review of terminology, it's literally the foundation of your entire clinical approach from here on out. Here is our syllabus for today. We're going to cover 1. The systemic mindset shift. 2. Know your family of origin. 3. Cultivating therapeutic presence. 4. Tools for family assessment. And we'll wrap up with 5. Integrating theory and practice. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the systemic mindset shift. Your absolute first task as a new trainee is to fundamentally change how you view the people sitting across from you. I mean it. Now, you're probably used to the linear medical model, right? That focuses on discrete individual symptoms. It basically says A causes B. But as a family practitioner, you have got to leave that behind and embrace a systemic epistemology. We're talking circular causality. In family systems thinking, A influences B, which influences C, which then circles right back around and influences A. True diagnosis isn't about isolating a single patient's symptom, it's about looking at the entire relational field. When a family comes in, the quote-unquote identified patient is really just one part of a complex, self-perpetuating loop of interactions. And always remember, your clients do not exist in a vacuum. Bronfenbrenner's bioecological systems theory reminds us that families are embedded within these layered, interactive ecological systems that are constantly shaping their psychological development. It goes from their immediate microsystem, their home, their school, all the way out to the macrosystem of their broader culture, and even the chronosystem, which is how things change over time. When you're sitting in that counseling room, you have to realize all these invisible layers are sitting right in the room with you. Okay, moving on to section 2, know your family of origin. Here's the deal. Unexamined personal history will inevitably become countertransference in your sessions. It's a guarantee. To prevent this, I highly recommend using a wheel of influence or a 3-generation genogram to map out your own family traits. Think of a wheel where the spokes radiate from a center star. That star is you. The spokes identify the qualities of your relatives. Maybe you have a super patient father or a really resourceful sister. You need to map out which of these qualities you want to keep close and, crucially, which ones trigger your automatic emotional reactions. If you skip this work, you run a massive risk of trying to resolve your own family drama with every new family you encounter, and we definitely don't want that. So what's the goal here? It's reaching what Murray Bowen calls the differentiated self. This is your ultimate objective as a trainee. It's the ability to maintain a crystal clear sense of exactly who you are, while still remaining emotionally connected to the family in front of you. A differentiated self allows you to stay calm, stay focused, and stay observant. Honestly, it acts like a shield, making sure you don't get sucked into a family's emotional reactivity and chaos. Which leads us perfectly into section 3, cultivating therapeutic presence. Look, your theoretical knowledge is important, sure, but it is entirely secondary to your therapeutic presence. That is literally the single most important quality you bring into the counseling room. The legendary Virginia Satir used this brilliant ghosts in the room metaphor. She said that every new client will trigger memories of someone from our past. Think about it. A particular tone of voice might instantly remind you of an overbearing uncle, or a specific posture might look exactly like your anxious sibling. Acknowledging that these ghosts are in the room is the very first step to letting them go. It clears your projection so you can become truly, deeply present with the unique human beings actually sitting in front of you. Now, when you inevitably feel lost or totally overwhelmed in a session, and trust me, you will, it happens to all of us, rely on the PACE framework to build a useful rhythm. PACE stands for purpose, awareness, contact, and experience. It grounds your therapeutic movement. You establish an Adlerian sense of purpose. You heighten your Gestalt awareness of what's happening in the exact present moment. You make genuine contact with the clients, and you validate their experience just like Satir would. It gives you a really steady pace when the family dynamics start getting turbulent. Let's transition to section 4, tools for family assessment. Let's talk about the actual tools you'll use to gather data and build your clinical hypotheses. I like to tell trainees to keep a sort of mental filing cabinet handy with 3 main assessment buckets. First, standardized tests, like the MMPI-2. These give you objective, normed data.
Second, observational tools. These are fantastic for the counseling room. Things like the Beaver's interaction scales or the GARF let you score real-time interactions, noting hierarchy, emotional climate, and boundaries as they happen live. And finally, qualitative methods. Tools like genograms or the cultural formulation interview let you map out intergenerational patterns and deeply understand the family's unique cultural context.
But wait, here is a critical warning as you start using these tools. Remember that modern systemic assessment is not just about hunting for dysfunction. Frankly, anyone can spot a problem. Your job is to actively identify the family's existing resilience and their capacity for growth. You have to shift your focus from pathology to resiliency. Take note of the strengths these families are already demonstrating under incredible stress. Because that resilience, that is the exact bedrock you're going to build your interventions upon.
All right, our final section, number 5, integrating theory and practice. As you prepare to actually meet your clients, you have to figure out how to weave these various tools and models into a cohesive, integrative practice. The good news is, you don't have to lock yourself into just one way of thinking. You can use Pensoft's 7 meta frameworks as simultaneous lenses to assess a family's unique ecology. You might view the family through the lens of their structural organization, or maybe their stage of development, their cultural background, or even their spirituality and biology. Using these diverse perspectives allows you to tailor your interventions perfectly to their specific, multifaceted needs. It's pretty amazing how all these concepts ultimately come together. Every model you're learning, from the early pioneers like Minuchin's structural family counseling, through the postmodern transition with narrative therapy, all the way to modern evidence-based practices like the Gottman method, they are all totally interconnected. They're basically branches of the same systemic tree, forming this comprehensive genogram of theories. Now, none of them hold a claim to absolute truth, but when you integrate them, they give you an incredibly powerful toolkit for healing.
So, as we wrap up this explainer and you get ready to open that door and invite your first clients into the room, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. You have the tools. You understand the systemic mindset. You know the importance of your own presence. But the real question is, how will you integrate your own personal history with these powerful systemic lenses to facilitate true, lasting healing? Which lens will you choose to look through first? Take a deep breath, trust the process, and go meet your clients. You're going to do great.